to 216, a Link to the Past Randomizer podcast. I'm your host, Fear Agent. Today on the show, we've got TracieM. I had a great conversation with TracieM. Her and I could talk for a really long time, and she's got a lot of opinions, and I really enjoy that part of our conversation is her sharing those opinions, and she's not afraid anyone to hear what she thinks, and if you don't like it, deal with it. I love that kind of approach that she's got, so we'll get to that shortly. All right, so here's what's going on, and here's kind of why I'm pissed off. We've got Game 5 coming up between the Divine Beastie Boys and Beats from the East. Gamachu blew his game against Homemade Beer. He had the win locked up, and he choked it away. But that's fine. We get to play Game 5 Retrants, co-op Retrants, Ramond and myself versus Julo and Moogle Charm. Been looking forward to this because I really love playing co-op Retrants. Unfortunately, it's Christmas week, and we have runners in the West Coast of the US, the Midwest of the US, the EU time zone, and Australia time zones. So shit time zones to schedule everyone with. So we got to figure this out. We've got 4 days to do it. Ramon can't play Monday. The weekend's out. It's Christmas Eve and Christmas. We can't play the weekend. I've got family stuff. Moogle's got family stuff. I assume Julo and Ramon have got family stuff to do as well. And Friday is Saturday, Australia time. So Friday's going to be even tough to get to. So that means we've got Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday to try to figure out how to find a time for all of us to race. So that sucks. And we've been told by the admins that we can't async this seed. So that's something, I guess. Let's just say I'm not happy. I'll sum it up with I'm not happy about that. If only Gamachu had beat Homemade Beer, I think that would have been the answer. Can we just go back in time and have Gamachu beat Homemade Beer? And then we don't have to play Game 5. So we'll see what happens. We've got more drama coming up with another league season and another Game 5 that happens to be co-op Retrants that kind of ended things for me last season. We'll see how it goes this season. We've got 3.5 days to figure it out. And let's see what happens. Let's see if we can get along with these league admins and find a way to make this game happen. All right, enough of that. Let's get to the interview with Tracie. Again, very excited to talk with her. Very excited about hearing her perspective, especially coming from the Super Metroid community and all that she has from there, and the connection between Super Metroid and Link to the Past, and then of course the Super Metroid Link to the Past combo stuff that she's been a part of, and it's really cool to listen to her perspective on all of it. So enough of me, let's get to her. All right, Tracie, I'm super excited to have you on the show. You are one of my favorite co-coms in all of ALCTPR world. Like, I love doing commentary with you. I don't think we got a chance to do it as much this season. You know, we're still in the playoffs, so maybe we get a couple more opportunities here. But my introduction to you was through commentary, and I just love doing commentary with you. Well, I love doing commentary with you too, Fear. I mean, that's the thing I like to do most is the commentary. Like most people, I think if you go to, you watch SGDQ or AGDQ or whatever, I didn't want to be the people playing the games. I wanted to be the people talking on the couch, like from the beginning. Sure. Yeah. And you do a great job. I mean, I think when it comes to like the best commentators, it's like, how do you judge best, right? But best commentators in Rando, I mean, your name has got to be considered one of the top. I mean, you want TracieM to be doing your race, to be honest. I really appreciate those sentiments. I have no way to judge myself. I can't stand listening back. Your voice sounds funny when you listen back, that kind of thing. So I only consider myself good because people tell me that I'm good. Well, people keep wanting to work with you and to have you do their matches. So that's got to be a positive, right? Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And you talk about a list of commentaries. I could create a list of a bunch of favorite commentators, both to work with and to listen to. But don't ask me to try to put them in any sort of order, because that would just be really, really hard to do. I don't know how I could do that. That's why I said one of the best, because there is like how do I rank 1, 2, and 3? Like I have my favorites for sure, but I mean, what's the difference between 1 and 2 and 3? Really? Like I don't know. I just like to listen to these people. I mean, there's so many good people. Totally. And and I feel privileged because we have I feel like in the past done quite a few matches. And from what I can tell, people enjoy us together on the mic. I hope so. Yeah. either way, even if they don't, I have a good time when we're in the booth together.
Absolutely.
So that's a lot of fun. But you do play, like you're part of the ladder, and and we're going to get into your history and stuff with like Super Metroid and stuff. But
absolutely,
you're not just a commentator. I think a lot of people know you as a commentator because they see
well,
you.
Especially in Link to the Past.
Yes, for sure. Which is like kind of where we're at, right? We're in the Link to the Past world here. And Super Metroid, though, that's going to be a whole different thing. So let's actually start with your like gaming history. Did you grow up gaming?
Well, our first console was a Pong system.
Oh, yes. So, yes, you definitely grew up gaming.
I remember it was broken. I think I vaguely remember playing it, but I know it got broken. Then my mom was given a Atari 2600 at Christmas one year. I was probably like 3 or 4 years old. Of course, who didn't play it. It was my dad played it, I played it, my brother played on it. And then
your mom was so happy to have this system for everyone else to play.
When the Nintendo came out, my brother and I desperately wanted a Nintendo, but we had an Atari 2600 and we had about 100 cartridges for the 2600. And my dad said no because it wasn't backwards compatible. And instead of the Nintendo, we got an Atari 7800, which, it was an upgrade over the Atari, but not by much. I mean, it basically, my memories of it were that the arcade games looked more real. Like Pac-Man looked like Pac-Man and Miss Pac-Man looked like Miss Pac-Man. Whereas on the 2600, it wasn't the same. They were different.
Right.
So it took us another couple of years until we finally convinced my dad to let us get the Nintendo. It was Christmas 1987, I want to say. My brother got the Nintendo. I got the Zelda 1 cartridge. That was mine.
Nice.
And Zelda 1 cartridge, probably the best Christmas present I ever got.
It's so
still
awesome.
one of my favorite games.
And shiny and
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's such a great game. And what people don't understand about the original Nintendo was like that game and the original Metroid, like the fact that in the original Metroid, the first thing you had to do was go to the left instead of to the right. I mean, people got stuck because they're like, I can't get through this little corridor because I'm 2 tiles tall instead of 1, know, and didn't know what to do. Like that was revolutionary. Legend of Zelda, you start on this map and you can go any direction you want. Well, you can't go down, but you can basically go any direction you want. That was unheard of in video games before that. Like those were pretty groundbreaking. So yeah, the original NES was a big part of my childhood,
totally.
My older childhood.
Yeah, it's weird to think about how big those games were, right? Like not just in popularity, but in size, like in scope, like specifically Metroid and Legend of Zelda. Nothing was seen before like that. It seems so quaint now when you look back in retrospect, but at the time it was like, holy crap, where do I even go? And I as a kid, I never even beat Metroid. There was no way I was beating that as a kid.
Yeah, I actually, one of the, like a lot of the old NES games, I don't tend to like save states, but some of the old NES games just need it.
Right.
Because like, the password system, which I mean, I swear like the government couldn't have a better, nuclear missile password than what they had on those old Metroid games.
Right.
I got to the point where I would, because the only way you'd have to either die or up A, and then I'd write down like 3 different passwords, and hopefully I wrote down one of them correctly, and then you start up and you have 30 health in the middle of this awful spot. So yeah, it's one of those few things. The original Zelda got to the point where I could play it straight through without dying. So usually towards the end, that's kind of what I would do on that game. Kid Icarus was another old favorite of mine.
Yeah,
love that game. The original Super Mario games. I like 2 better. Like Super Mario 3 is great until you get to level 8. Hate level 8. I've never gotten through level 8 without save states. Whatever.
It's tough.
The rest of it's
definitely
great.
Tough. Yeah.
Oh yeah. But
all those like auto scrollers and stuff. Yeah.
The thing is though, with the original games, I think they're harder. They're harder now than they were back then because the original Zelda, the game comes with this map. It comes with a map and it shows you the maps to like the first 2 dungeons and a little bit of dungeons 3 and 4. It kind of tells you where to go. In the same way that more modern games are really handholdy. If you had the map, you had at least a little bit of a starting point. But if you've never played those games and you pick them up today, I mean, they didn't hold your hand in the game at all. So,
not at all. Not at all.
So not having the maps and the resources that we did, and of course, they also sold things like the original. Like I have this memory of, I think it was there's in the original Metroid where you get high jump boots. You're supposed to keep going beyond that, and I have this memory of my brother and his friend figuring that out with. It may not even have been Nintendo Power. It might have been the free newsletter that used to come that preceded Nintendo Power. And they're trying to figure out how to get past the high jump boots to get all the things that are in this Norfair area that make the game, because you can get Wave Beam and Screw Attack. And Screw Attack just makes Metroid a lot easier and a lot more fun, honestly.
Sure. Yeah. It's just funny how different things are. It's so hard to look back at 1987's right Nintendo games. Mm-hmm. And from our perspective, we experienced it but from my kids' perspective and from the younger generation, it's like, oh, those games are so quaint, right? Like, yeah, but man,
absolutely.
they're so like you were in those worlds just as much as any sort of modern game. Yeah, like you're completely engulfed in the world of Hyrule or whatever.
I'm pretty certain I bombed every wall and burnt every tree.
Right.
Both first and second class of Legend of Zelda. So.
For sure. So did you have that same sort of love for the Atari stuff? Because you said you had 100 cartridges. That's a ton of games.
Yeah. So the only Atari game that I really loved, and I call these the original randomizer. There's this game called Adventure.
Yeah.
And you're this little square box and you walk around, you pick up a sword to slay the 3 dragons. And then you pick up the gold key to get into the gold castle and the white key for the white castle and the black key for the black castle. You're supposed to bring the chalice back. And level 1 was an easy mode and level 2 is a little bit harder. But level 3 was randomized. So you just played level 3. And I don't think it had any logic because I recall there were some that you just couldn't finish.
Sure.
But I call it the original randomizer because that was what you did. You played level 3. It was still a really short game, but now you actually had to go find the things. You didn't know where they were. So that was my, I wouldn't say introduction to randomizer, but certainly put the idea in my head. Years later, early 2000, I'm like, they could do this the original Zelda.
Right.
It wasn't until apparently Lack Attack mentioned the idea to Fred, and thus Zelda 1 Z1R was born. But I had the idea before that. I just had no one. I have no programming experience, and I had no one to tell. So just out there in a vacuum.
Did you continue on with the Nintendo stuff as you got older? Did you stick with video games?
Well, yeah. So SNES, I had a SNES. Played Link to the Past, played Super Metroid, Final Fantasy 2/4 and 3/6, whatever.
Right. Right.
Because the numbering system was different. Mario World. But I graduated from high school in 1994. So for those of you who want to do some math, you can figure out my age. I am one of the oldest people in the community for sure, if not the oldest. Rick and Drasty and I compare notes. They are younger than I am, but not by much. And once I went to college, there was a lot less video game playing. And then, of course, the N64 came out and everything went 3D. And my brain I can't handle 3D.
Sure.
I couldn't even get out of the very beginning of Ocarina of Time. Couldn't get very far in Super Mario 64. I tried Metroid Prime on the GameCube. I can't do 3D. I can't even watch I watch Astor play Metroid Prime games and Ocarina of Time, and I'm just completely lost. Like I have no idea what he's doing.
Sure.
So I just can't follow those games. So I joke that they don't make video games for me. Dread was an exception recently, but all these 3D games.
Sure.
So the N64 comes out, and I'm in college, and other things are taking more priority, and everything's coming out 3D anyway. So I kind of didn't play for a little bit. Eventually. Sold a lot of my old stuff to try and I wanted everything on a 3DS, just play everything on my handheld because
Sure.
I had no intention of ever streaming. Like that never was even on my radar.
Right.
And eventually all the games came out in 3DS and I started watching YouTube videos. First speedrun I ever watched was an old Zoast reverse boss order Super Metroid. And I just was absolutely astounded. Like, wow, what is this? There were things, I'd played Super Metroid a lot. It was probably it still is. It's been my favorite game. And there was so much I didn't know about it. And, as happens with YouTube, you get the recommendeds, and that's eventually got recommended GDQ stuff. So I watched a lot of that. And then fall of 2017, there was both a Link to the Past and a Super Metroid Randomizer tournament. And I got those videos recommended, and I started with the Super Metroid ones.
Because that was that was your favorite game, right? So
yeah, it's my favorite game. And Super Metroid to me felt a little bit more natural to randomize. Like I watched the videos and watched it play, and I'm like, okay, this all makes sense. And I'd always played, which is kind of strange because I always played Link to the Past straight through, in order, of course the NMG run doesn't do. And it never occurred to me to go out of order, which is strange because when I played Z1, in particular the second quest, I never went in order in the second quest ever. I had a few different routes that I used to use, and I wouldn't call them speed runs, but I would call them deathless runs. That was my goal, was to not die. But when I started watching these Super Metroid and seeing the way they were able to randomize things and the glitches that you can use, and some aren't even really glitches that you can use to get around things, I was absolutely fascinated. I was absolutely hooked to watch all 301 videos from over like a 9-month period. In the meantime, I'd also joined the community and stuff and created a Twitch channel. So yeah, that was my start in randomizer, was watching those. I regret not finding it sooner enough to jump in on commentary. I could not have played in it because I had rotator cuff surgery that summer anyway. So playing wouldn't have been an option. So I don't really regret not being able to play in it, but not being able to commentate it, because that was what I wanted to do. I wanted to talk about the game. That's what I wanted to do.
Had you done any sort of like commentary or anything like that before? Or was speedruns and randomizers your first like introduction to it?
Mostly. So the only thing one of my big regrets was not trying to go into sports commentary. I considered going into that in college. Went and got a physics degree instead. When I live in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. At the time, I was still living in Iowa City and going to school at the University of Iowa. But for a while, I had season tickets to the minor league team here in Cedar Rapids, the Colonels. And I was friends with the play-by-play guy. And a couple times we would go on road games, and he'd let me sit in the booth with him and do the game with him, which was really fun. Yeah. And I kind of wish I had pursued that instead of, don't get me wrong, math and science, and, I have a PhD in math and stuff. That's all good stuff too. But with the success I've had recently with the commentary, I'm like, if I had gone for the baseball stuff, I think I might have been able to make something work out of that. And, and I love baseball, although baseball has kind of we're not going to go too far into this, but yeah, baseball has gone in a direction I don't like and all their changes, but
let's get into it. This is my show. We can talk about whatever. And I'm okay. You know me. I'm a big sports fan. And I take it you were a big sports fan too growing up. Yep. So was it always baseball, or was it? I know you actually played a little ice hockey too, right? Yeah, Giants, Sharks, 49ers. I played softball as a kid. Picked up hockey about 20 years ago. Haven't played only played once since the rotator cuff injury, and that was. That was at a San Jose Sharks fantasy camp, which was super, super fun. But yeah, I love sports. So the pandemic kind of, I'm not as into it anymore. I think partly because of the pandemic and the way they kind of kept playing through it just didn't feel right. Sure. But yeah, I just absolutely love sports. So you grew up in Iowa, but you picked all California teams? No, I did not grow up. No. I was born in New Jersey. Okay. We moved to California, San Jose, California in 1984. Okay, that makes sense. Oh, gotcha. So, yeah. And then I wanted to, as one does, they want to go someplace not home. Totally. So the Big Ten kind of caught my eye. I wanted to do marching band. So I wanted to go to a school that had a good physics program. I wanted to do marching band, and, I wanted to, be like a major Division I college type thing. So I will fit all those things, and was for an out-of-state school relatively cheap. My dad did not want to pay for expensive college. So, sure. We were able to convince him because Iowa was the cheapest school in the Big Ten. This is the smallest school in the Big Ten outside of Northwestern. I don't know if that's still true, but that was true in the 90s. And so that's how I ended up in Iowa, and I never left. Yeah, I take it you liked it there. Then I like it enough, and then eventually you met someone, got married. Yeah, you got roots here. So once
once that all happens, it makes it a lot harder to leave. And honestly, at this point, the one thing I don't like, of course, is, because having been from New Jersey, where it snowed a lot and you get snow days, and yay, and then moved to California and we didn't have that anymore. I wanted the snow days back. I wanted the snow back. And then I learned that as an adult, snow is not nearly as much fun as it is when you're a kid, because you have to do this thing called drive through it.
Yes.
So we'd love to move to a warmer weather area, but also he's from Winnipeg, Canada. And we also wouldn't mind moving back up near them to be near family, because we've got three young nieces and a couple older nephews that we don't get to see regularly because, it's an 11-hour drive. And with the pandemic, border crossing becomes a much bigger issue. He's on a green card, so it's not that big an issue, but he's always nervous when we go across the border. So,
and you're not going to get away from the snow there either. that's
not at all. We're going to get more snow there. And I mean, whenever the winter gets really bad, he's like, oh, this is nothing compared to Winnipeg. Like, okay, I get it. You grew up in really bad snow, and I get it.
Right. We just got like a big snowfall here. And for the first time ever, I understood why people move to Arizona and Florida when they get older. Because normally I'm like, oh yeah, I love it. I'm in my 40s or whatever now, and I've always loved the snow time in the winter and all that stuff. But I don't know what it was. I woke up and I'm just like, it's too cold. I just want it to be. I'm like, I told my mom, I am finally realizing I am getting old, because I understand it.
So true.
Yeah. So you grow up enjoying all the sports teams. You said baseball kind of changed for you recently because of the rule changes. Like what sort of?
Okay. So, well, first of all, can we please get rid of the DH? But no, we have to give it to now the National League has the DH. Let's see what else. Oh, runner. I think they're getting rid of this, but I'm not sure. The runner on second base and extra innings.
Yes. I hate that too.
No. Oh, and if you look at it, it actually gives the road team the advantage, because you're giving them a rally for free, and they can score a bunch of runs, and then okay, so the home team gets an at bat, but now they're down by 5 runs. Like, you're not coming back from that.
Right.
And so all those things, we don't throw for the intentional walk anymore. It was a play in the 2014 playoffs. Giants were playing the Nationals, and we had a runner in third, and there was a wild pitch during an intentional walk, and they actually end up throwing the runner out at home plate. Well, we're never going to see that again, because we don't actually have the intentional walk. We actually don't throw the pitches. I remember you think it's a boring thing, but there's things you can do. I've seen the catcher signal for the intentional walk and then get down the squat and actually throw a strike, because the batter's not expecting it. Those things are gone. Like, they take strategy away from the game.
Yeah.
The DH takes strategy away from the game. Like, to me, anything that takes strategy away is a bad thing.
Sure.
Like, I like strategy. I like to see these things happen.
I take it you're not a fan of them getting rid of the this next season. You can no longer do weird shifts anymore. I
mean, the shift never bothered me. Kind of like whatever. Like, if the players can't adjust to it, then that's what I don't understand why. I don't understand getting rid of it, because it's like, it feels like strategy, like you're talking about. If we're going to put everyone over on the right side, it's free on the left. Just hit it over there. If the batter can't, hit the ball the other way to get a free double, then that's their problem.
Right. I agree.
I remember high school softball one day, the outfielders all bunched up on one side or the other, and I turned to my teammate and said, "Look at the outfielders." I said, I just hit the ball the other way, and you're gonna run forever. And we both did.
Yeah.
I'm slow, so I got a double out of it. I think she might have gotten a home run because she's fast. But it's just, like, just take advantage of it. You don't have to hit into the shift.
Yeah, totally. All right, so back to the gaming world. You start watching YouTube, get all the recommendations, and then you're introduced to Twitch. I take it, like me, I wasn't introduced to Twitch until later in, like 2017.
I knew Twitch existed. I knew Twitch existed when it came out. And my first thought was people watching other people play video games. That's never going to work. And then I stopped and thought for a second. And I'm like, no, wait. I have memories of being at the YMCA with the original arcade Pac-Man game, and watching one of my mom worked there. One of her coworkers would play Pac-Man, and we'd watch, and she'd just kill it. And it was fun to watch. And I remember, I think my brother actually stopped playing because he didn't want me to watch him play. Things like, and then I'm like, you know what? No, this absolutely will work. This will absolutely work. But I kind of ignored it. I was in the middle of my PhD. So there wasn't a whole lot of time to pay attention to Twitch. So it wasn't till that 2017 stretch and into 2018 that I finally said, you know what, this is time for me to watch. And I was very slow at it. Like I created an account right after AGDQ 2018. So January 2018, I create my account and kind of didn't do much with it other than watch a little bit of speed gaming. The first individual broadcast I watched, this was a big mistake. And it's funny because I consider him a friend now. I was watching Oats and Goats for about 5 minutes. And I don't know if you've ever watched him, but his chat is a thing. And I'm like, no, this is not for me. I've met him since, and at 2SGDQs, and I do consider him a friend. But I'm not going to say to him, you should change the way your stream goes because of me, because he's a very successful streamer, making plenty of money off of it, thousands of viewers at a time. But it's not for me. And then eventually, the Super Metroid multi-category tournament started, which was you play a bunch of different categories, different vanilla categories, and I started watching that and making friends through watching that, and eventually did commentary for the Any Percent tournament over the summer. My Twitch viewers that tournament started, I want to say July 2018 and ended in October, and I streamed once during that stretch. And I went from about 30 followers to about 90 followers just from commentary. Wow. Like I get all my followers are from commentary. I don't think I've ever gotten a follower from actually being on a restream. So once that was done, it was very easy to go about getting affiliate because I just needed to stream for a week and have 3 viewers, right? Affiliate's pretty free once you get the follow numbers.
Right.
And I did the final for the Any Percent tournament, which was amazing.
Especially with how new you were to the community, right? Yeah. So did you just kind of soak up all the information that you could about the speed run of the game?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And it's evolved quite a bit since then. So there's a lot of things that I don't know as well now. I think I'd want to have someone with that kind of knowledge now if I was doing a big time Any Percent game. My knowledge definitely runs more towards randomizer. But yeah, the problem with the thing I don't like about vanilla categories as far as commentary goes, and I joked about this even at the time, is I swear I could have just written a script and followed it for an Any Percent run.
Sure.
Because it's basically always the same, and there's little strats that you can pick up, and the people that really understand the speed run now will pick up on those strats, but and will prepare you for them, and then they work or they don't. And I don't think I'm quite as good at that from the vanilla side as being in a randomizer situation where instead of you're not talking about strats as much as you're talking about, okay, what decisions are people going to make? And I think I'm a little bit better at that. Yeah,
totally. So as you're playing and doing commentary for this, are you just focusing on the vanilla game, or are you starting to do randomizer stuff as well?
So come fall 2018, it was either right before or right after the Any Percent tournament came up. And yeah, I played a few SM randomizers. One day in a Discord of a friend of mine, we cooked up the idea for the original Super Metroid Randomizer League. So we beat you to it, but you had a better model.
Yeah.
Our original, so we made so many mistakes that first year. Our original model was 18 weeks, which, oh my God.
That's so long.
Somebody please stop us.
Yeah.
It was individuals. It was, we didn't have a lot of variety in modes at the time. So it was all the same. Basically at the time we could do major, minor, or full. Major, minor being you take your E-tanks, you take your reserve tanks, and all your 17 major items. 16 major items, and you randomize them, and then your ammo is randomized separately. And so 18 weeks of that individually, into a playoff matchup. And, we made so many mistakes. So the first mistake is the 18 weeks. Like, that's way too long. Yeah. We put in as a tiebreaker finish game time, which I don't mind as a seeding tiebreaker, but it should not have, as a in versus out tiebreaker is just terrible. And what was the last one? The other really bad one was, so one of the people on the original admin team was like, well, let's give a point for a loss. And I'm like, why would you give a point for a loss? Like 3 for a win. It was like 3 for a win, 2 for a tie, 1 for a loss. Like, why would you do that? And then we said, okay, how about this? How about 1 for a loss and 0 for a forfeit? Which, for me as a new runner, I'm like, well, yeah, let's encourage new runners to finish the game. What I didn't understand was that as a veteran runner, you don't always want to finish when you've already lost. Sometimes you just want to be done, and your opponent is put in the dot done, and you don't want to finish. So people were, those people were obligated to finish, and usually it was the better players that were obligated to finish, because the newer players were like, yeah, whatever, we'll finish, we'll get our free point. So that was a terrible, terrible idea. We started out with, I want to say like 68 people, I think it was. I think by the end we were in the 50s. We had a lot of people drop. Sure. Which was, it wasn't sustainable. We did have a pretty good playoffs, and that was fun. And that was the first season. In the second season, we shortened it to 9 weeks. We still had individual. It was much better. I wouldn't say we made nearly as many mistakes, but it wasn't until season 3 that we really kind of hit our stride. Because I had seen what you'd done with the Link to the Past Randomizer League. And I didn't realize at the time that you were it all came from you, because I wasn't around for season 1. I missed that season 1 even happened. I was around for season 2 as a commentator. And I'm like, we need to do this. We need to have teams with 7 different weeks, 7 different modes. And so season 3, we modeled it after you guys. And I think it was, there were still mistakes that we made, like, we had 30 teams, and instead of doing 8-8-7-7 for our divisions, which would have worked a lot better, we went 6 divisions of 5, which meant more crossover play, which meant, and it was really hard to balance out the schedules. Not really hard. It was impossible. It just couldn't be done. Sure. And whereas if we just said, well, it's, because as a math person, I wanted the nice number, everyone had the same number of teams in their division, but no, it would have been better to go 8-8-7-7, because then the divisions of 8 just wouldn't play outside the division. And the divisions of 7 could just play once outside the division. And we did divisions of 6. Divisions of 5, 6 divisions of 5. Okay. And so you had 3 games outside your division, and there was just no way to make those fair. There was just absolutely no way to make those fair. The playoffs again, I think, worked really well for us. And we're in the process of figuring out what to do for season 4. I've dropped the ball a little bit on that, so hopefully that'll we'll get that figured out pretty soon. Because we try to avoid your league, we try to avoid Link to the Past main tournament, just the 3 weeks in. The 3 weeks of group stages, because mainly because SG is just so packed. Now we want to make sure we're going to get aired. It's like if everything, when Link to the Past has something really big going on SG, it's really difficult. But the other thing that happened is the first 2 seasons we aired mostly on our own channel, and we used to do weeklies on SG, and I was doing like 80% of the restreams, and I just said that's too much. And so season 3, I said, we're just moving to SG. We're not doing our own broadcast anymore. Right. And no one objected, but what they didn't know is had they objected, I was going to walk. I wasn't going to do it again. It was way too much work. I haven't worked since the pandemic, but then this becomes your job. And when it starts becoming your job, unpaid. It's not as much fun. Yeah,
it's an unpaid job that you have to volunteer all your time for, and it's stressful. And you make mistakes, you learn from the mistakes, and there's, you're dealing with a lot of people, and some people are easier to deal with than some others. And it's all fun. It's all fun until it isn't.
And then in the meantime, I've helped run some of these SMZ3 tournaments, and I do commentary for Link to the Past. And this year I picked up Z1R recently. Oh, okay. Which is a lot of fun. Z1R in some ways, the thing I like about Z1R that neither SM nor Link to the Past has is level 9. I don't know if you've ever watched a Z1R race. But
Actually,
level 9.
This GDQ, this SGL, I watched most of the tournament that went on, or that they showed.
Nice. See, I missed most of it. I'm waiting for the YouTube videos.
And it was great. It was like, oh, this actually got me into the idea of running a little bit. And me and a couple of buddies have run a few seeds. It's super hard, but it's a lot of fun.
But the thing that Z1R has that the other games, so those of you that haven't watched any Z1R, is level 9. When they call it the Great Equalizer, it really is. So Link to the Past, you get to GT, and maybe the Ganon's Tower Big Key location can change things, but there's really not much that's going to change. SM, you get to Turian. The person's lead is probably going to win. It's a little different Link to the Past because if you don't save and you die to Mother Brain, the lead switches. You know, it's not like 20 Ganon falls, just one death at Mother Brain and you can switch the lead, and it's none of this 20 Ganon falls things. With Z1R, you know, you could be 5 minutes late into level 9, but if you find the right path to get to Ganon and get to Zelda, you still win. You know? Or, you know, one player has a ladder and the other player doesn't, and it turns out one of those things is ladder blocked.
Yeah.
And suddenly the player at the ladder who got in later because they found the ladder, again, they end up winning because, you know, they had that one extra item that the other player didn't have. And Link to the Past and SM just don't have that. So, you know, in Z1R, pretty much it's not over until you actually rescue the princess. You know? And that's just, you just don't have that in the other games. So it's got to be super nerve wracking for the players, I imagine. But I don't. Yeah, go ahead.
You feel like a big personality. You're a small person with a big personality. I feel like
I'm 5 feet tall, so yes.
Yeah, you kind of like, it feels like you're like, I'm here, not in a rude way or not even like in a forceful way, but it's just like, I'm here. And that's kind of how it was with Super Metroid, right? Because it feels like not only did you like just start getting into it, but you're like calling the finals, right? Like,
yep.
So you find your community pretty quickly within the Super Metroid community, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, it was great starting out, you know, and then of course getting into Link to the Past. I remember that was the finals was the fun part. So, you know, they used to do the questionnaire and, you know, what commentary have you done? And it's like, well, I've called a bunch of finals in Super Metroid. I put that on my resume. So it didn't take long to get approved for Link to the Past for the 2019 tournament.
It's so funny to think about how different things have been in the last, you know, just a couple of years when you had to like fill out a form and have like I don't know if you had to do this, but I had to have like a mic check and I had to like, it was like all this stuff you had to do.
Was my mic check person.
Okay. Yeah. Sabotender was mine. Yep. And now it's like, please, can anyone commentate these races? It just feels so different than it was back then. So you go from Super Metroid. Do you then start getting into SMZ3, or what's the path to finally get to?
SMZ3 was a big part of that.
Okay.
So when I first started, I was on a SNES Classic. And when I first started, I was about when SMZ3 came out. And I was planning on playing it, and then it didn't play on the SNES Classic. So I kind of put that aside. And then my Classic had... Towards the end of the first league season, I was having trouble uploading seeds onto the Classic. It would take like 30 minutes sometimes to upload a seed. I never did figure out why. And I finally just gave up and said, okay, I'm getting an ST2 SNES. I ordered an ST2 SNES, set that up. And once I had that, now I could play SMZ3.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget. So like in May 2019, this would have been, I had Maniacal from Bottles on Empty. He talked me through an SMZ3 seed. He was on the mic while I was playing it, and I went 605. I think there was a shovel on Lumberjack or something that had us where I don't think I found boots either. That was I didn't find boots in that seed either. But I mean, newer Link to the Past players don't really use boots properly anyway. So there's a lot of walking that you do because you're afraid of bonking anyway. I think Koi has a little chart of, you know, at first you're not bonking at all because you're not running, and then you're bonking all the time because you're trying to run, And then, eventually it gets to a nice happy medium. So I played that seed. And then, to play an SMZ3 seed at the beginning, 6 hours is a lot of time. So you're really having to carve out a chunk of time to play an SMZ3 seed. So Maniacal says to me, well, you should just play some Link to the Past only seeds when you don't have the time to play the full one. I'm okay, so I'll play some Link to the Past. The first Link to the Past seed I ever played was a logically, potentially hard required. You might be able to fake flipper out of it or something, although the splash delete hadn't been found yet. Blind with red cane fight.
Oh, fun.
Which I didn't even know was a thing. Like I didn't.
Sure.
Like I'm to the point where I'm like, okay, let's experiment with different items because I know I'm supposed to kill blind, but I'm not sure how I'm supposed to do it. So I kill blind. I think it was a 5.5 hour seed. There were some other trolls in it as well, but like that was my first ever Link to the Past seed. I don't think I ever went past 5 hours, but it takes time to go from 4 hours to 3 hours and stuff.
Yeah.
And, so I started, once I got to a reasonable time, I started doing the SMZ3 weeklies and then some of the Link to the Past dailies back when they were still pretty popular.
Yeah.
And then when the tournament hit in 2019, the dailies kind of went away. Just kind of, which was just before Ladder came out. They just kind of went away during that time. But by then, I'd say I was sub 230. It took me a while to get to sub 2, actually. Like getting from 230 to 2 was quite the stretch.
Yeah.
And then eventually
the
Ladder came out. Yeah.
Right? These games are hard.
Yeah. Yeah. You don't realize how hard the game is until you watch someone play. The best example I have right now is Koi's been playing a lot of SMZ3 and I watch him a lot. And when I watch, I'm starting to make a list of tutorials I'm going to make specifically of things that Koi has trouble with. Not because he's in particular having trouble with them, but because they're things I don't think about as being hard anymore.
Yeah.
And, a new player, we don't have the kind of resources. I think the resources are all out there, but they're not all. So much SM is speedrun based and not randomizer.
Right.
So we kind of need more for the randomizer. I always say that SM and Link to the Past are opposites. SM,
why do you think that is?
I don't know. Like the speed, there's like 1,000. There are over 1,000 people with an any percent run on Speedruns Live. Mm-hmm. I'm not in the top 1,000 anymore because I've not updated my PB. But when I got my PB, which I hesitate to even call it such, I was in the 700s. So, whereas, and then the randomizer community is much smaller. We'll get 80 people in a tournament, whereas like Link to the Past, we'll get 300 people trying to qualify. Mm-hmm. And then flip that, like your NMG runs. If you look at the NMG runs, and on Link to the Past, it's like 200, and the randomizer is just like there's 700 people on the list of Ladder, and that does. I don't think I assume that's not everybody that's ever played on Ladder because I think the numbers have gone down at some point and gone back up. They're just not consistent. So I think people that leave and leave, their names aren't necessarily still on there. You'd have to ask Dunka about that, but yeah, I don't know why. The SM speedrun I think is really it's kind of an elegant speedrun. There's a lot of speedruns out there I don't like because they skip the game. The SM and the Link to the Past speedruns, they play the most popular speedruns play the game.
Right.
The only real glitch SM uses is Zeb skip. I don't consider mothball or short charging glitches. Link to the Past, you have your fake flipper portion. That's a glitch for sure. And like hammer jump can be considered a glitch. But you're not skipping a ton of things by doing those things. You're just maybe saving 30 to 40 seconds.
Cutting down on travel a little bit.
Right.
Yeah.
Like this, and in Zeb skip on SM, the only thing the beauty of Zeb skip is not that you're doing this glitch, is that you don't have to pick up, a bunch of extra ammo, which wouldn't be very interesting. So I like those speedruns. I don't like speedruns where they skip a bunch of stuff. Like Dread is already picked apart. Yeah, I loved playing Metroid Dread, and I look forward to seeing the speedruns. And then I see them, and they're like, "Okay, we're gonna do this glitch to get around this, and we're gonna do that glitch to get around that." I want to see the game played.
Right.
I remember when Samus Returns was at GDQ, and I was at that one in person in 2018, and I was excited to see the game played. And then they skipped an entire portion of the second half of the game and took forever to do this one glitch that, it looks like a really, I don't understand. It was something to do with a transporter and rolling over it. Didn't understand it. And the guy took like a half hour to do it. And they said it's because, well, it's not his normal setup, which, makes sense to me. You get a different setup, things change. Like those little details matter. But in the meantime, I would have rather just seen him play the game,
Right.
Because that's what I wanted to see. I wanted to see play the game. I didn't want to see a glitch, So I think SM in particular has the speedrun is very accessible because you can get extra safeties and still get a sub 1. And you can get as many extra safeties as you need. And then you can bring it down to where you're down to the, I think the 19% is world record with I think that's what it is. It's 3 missile packs, 2 super packs, 1 power bomb, and then just the not necessarily required items, but 3 tanks, and you can get more of those as a safety. And even if you're not, there's 2 different routes. Like I'll never run new route, but the older route is still, there's a lot of things. I mean, it's still a pretty elegant route. And, I think it's just a fun game to play, but.
Well, there's a reason, and this might surprise you. I've never actually played much Super Metroid.
We got to talk about that.
Yeah. But there's a reason why it's often the closing game of a GDQ, right? Like it's super fun to watch.
It really is.
I don't have a huge nostalgia for it because I didn't play it as a kid. I still have played much of it. I think I played like an hour of it once. But I love watching it at GDQ. It's awesome. It's an awesome way to close the whole thing out.
So it really is.
When you say there's something elegant to that run, it's 100% true. Like it's cool to watch for sure. Yeah, even more so than Link to the Past.
Yeah, I was going to tell you that I'm going to challenge you. You need to play and finish that game. I don't care if you never. I don't care if you ever play it again. Like let me be clear. I like to see people to play it, but if it's not your cup of tea to like do randomize, that's fine. But play it once. And I'll give you some gift subs, and I need to at some point subscribe myself. If you finish Super Metroid, so
all right,
I'm challenging you.
New Year, I will finish Super Metroid.
Awesome,
for sure. So you kind of get your hands into the Link to the Past world, and as much as you're doing with SMZ3 and Super Metroid, it feels like you're a large part of the rando community with how much commentary you're doing. I think especially during 2020, right?
Oh yeah. I mean, 2020, the League 2020, I believe I was number 1 in terms of games broadcasted.
Yeah.
And for me, I tend to like to do day matches a lot because then I can do my own thing at night. But the day matches I know you guys have a harder time with day matches because, same thing with us when we're trying to get commentators because there's just not as many people available. So, I would always try and do those day matches. And, there was, and everybody knows there's a certain team that I did a lot of commentary for. I backed off on that a little bit. But, whenever those guys are playing, I like to do their matches.
Sure. Yeah, it's your friends.
Yeah. And, I always joke about my favorite commentary is when you have one person for each team.
Yes.
So I tell the story. I'm sure he'll be surprised to hear this, but JP and I did Azure versus Willard in the playoffs in 2020 in season 3. It was this nasty Randomizer seed. Azure had forgotten that Fire Rod opened up the Rupee room in Pod.
Yeah.
And it was inverted. It was Randomizer. And he thought the answer was I had to go through this really nasty ice palace.
Yes.
To get
I remember
my progression.
Seed.
And he spent like 30 minutes trying to get to that item. And Willard, meanwhile, gets whatever it was that was in the Rupee room. I don't even remember what it was. Like a glove or a hammer or something. And just wins by a ton. And it is one of the most fun experiences I've ever had commentating because JP is just so good to work with. And we just, we just fed off each other. And again, it was that dynamic of, it's his team. Willard's his teammate. Azur's not my teammate officially, but, I'm kind of unofficially.
Right.
So we had one person from each side. But the fact that my guy lost by a lot, and I still had that much fun calling the race, and Willard's my friend too. But it was, getting to do those kind of races, like that's when it's the best, is when it doesn't matter who's winning. You just have fun with the person you're with and calling the race.
I mean, the league playoffs are some of the best rando to watch. There's something about the team aspect of it all, right? Like,
oh yeah,
sure. Like the main tournament is fun, and you get to the brackets and it's fun, and you get these best of 3 matches and it's cool. But when there's like teammates involved, and I don't know, it's just different.
It's more stressful.
It really is. Which is weird, right?
I mean, speaking of JP, I saw him in chat, like his teammates were trying to get him into the playoffs in the last week, or maybe,
right.
I guess it was a couple of weeks ago now. And you can see he was sweating it out watching his teammates, try and get through it. So
for sure. It's so much fun. So you don't actually ever join the league though, right?
Yeah, I have not. I don't like 1v1 racing, first of all. I did the first 2 seasons of SM League. I absolutely hate 1v1 racing.
But you do the ladder.
Yeah, but ladder's different. Ladder's not, I can have my chat open. I can, talk to people. Right. Like what I like about streaming on Twitch is the interaction with other people that watch me. Why they watch me, I don't know. But, they watch me. And I like that interaction. As soon as you're playing in one of these high stakes tournaments, you can't have that chat up. And you can't interact.
Have 10-minute delay.
And now even SM, and we added delay recently as a preemptive measure because we haven't had huge cheating issues. Also, SMZ3 has had cheating issues for sure. So you don't have that interaction, and to me, that's not fun. As good as it feels to actually win one of those races, it doesn't make up for how bad it feels to lose, and it doesn't make up for just that tension of playing with no one they're watching, but you don't have that interaction. It doesn't make up for that. So I'll do ladder. I'll do dailies. I'm not even sure I'm going to do the SM League when we start up next month. To be honest, I have to talk with my teammates and from last year to see who's doing what. In terms like my teammates were Cross Product and Ace Zero, both names you're definitely familiar with Ace. Yeah. Cross Product hasn't done a lot of Link to the Past in a long time, but he's an old Link to the Past player. Yeah. They were my teammates last year, and I know Ace will find a team if I don't play. I don't know about Cross. Like I need to talk to him and see where he's at in terms of playing. So we'll see if we put a team together or not. But in general, I just don't like that 1v1. Now the one thing that League does have is we just like you do. We do co-op, and we actually do multi, which I wish the multi was set up for Link to the Past as well as it is for SM and SMZ3, because that would be a great addition to Link to the Past. But it's not as easy to set up. Like Total, who of course, as you all know, is the SMZ3 guy. When he created the multi, he still has his own SM stuff separate from the main, the quote unquote the Varia website, which is a different group of guys. But multi we do on Total site, and that setup is so much easier to do. And we have Sinek, the who just made my life so much easier with his bot commands. We can just do that off of race time, and SRL previous, which we can't do, which you guys probably can't do with the way the Link to the Past one works. But yeah. So we'll see what happens for next season. But yeah, 1v1 in a vacuum, just, to me, it's not for me. It's just not for me. And I'm not, I'm not that good a player to begin with. So putting together a Link to the Past team would be like, okay, who wants to suck with me? I'm not very good.
I know, but it's more about fun, right? Like, I feel like
absolutely
it's like
being realistic, like that,
right? Yes, being realistic.
You have the right teammates for that.
Totally. You need to find people that are of the same skill level, who have the same sort of expectations, and know that, like, we might not be winning this thing, but we're going to go and have fun doing co-ops and silly modes like that, sure. But at the same time, I totally understand not wanting to put yourself in the environment of the competitive scene with the delays and all that other stuff. Because it does take away a lot of the fun.
I hate losing.
Sure.
So,
I love how competitive you are.
Yeah. It's a thing.
Mm-hmm. And what you're saying with the multi-world, I think the admins would be open to the multi-world if it had a better setup, but there is no like central way of doing it. And now it's a headache to try to get multis going, and unless you're doing it all the time. But when you have a league of, I don't know how many people they had this year, 200 people or whatever, it's like trying to make sure all that works is like, would be a nightmare. I can't imagine them.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard enough.
That.
It's hard enough with the total setup, and the total setup was pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
With the Link to the Past one, like, because he never did the Link to the Past separately on his site, so unfortunately they can't do it through him. They'd have to either get him to do it, or they'd have to come up with a better way with what they already have.
Yeah,
I think it'd be a great mode for the league. I don't see how it happening anytime soon.
Sure,
unless somebody were to dedicate time to make it happen.
Yeah. Now, you've also done some in-person stuff. Like you've gone and you went to GDQs. Is that right?
Yep. I've been to 2 GDQs. I went in 2018 and 2019. And then SG Live this past year. And
tell me about those experiences. Yeah.
Okay. So G2 2018, I went in, barely knew anyone, found some SM people, hung out the entire weekend. It was great. Turns out the thing you do in GDQ is you don't go and watch the streams. The thing you do is you hang out with other people and you play video games. That's what you do at GDQ. 2019, I went back. Some other people came. We still still hung out. A bunch of SM people. And then SG Live in 2020, it was just a couple months ago, 2022. Let me tell you, SG Live in person was probably one of the most fun experiences I've ever had at a convention.
I had so much FOMO watching SGL this year.
You need to come, Fear. You need to come.
I was just watching. It was just like, oh, I want to be there and seeing all the cool stuff everyone's doing outside of SGL with all the food and stuff. And then, of course, the gaming as well. And doing live commentary, that looked like much fun.
So much fun. So much fun. Yeah. The funny thing was, like, you don't have a lot of time to do outside stuff. So I had wanted to get Fred or someone to teach me how to do some Z1R tricks. And we did that. I want to say Thursday night. And then I showed him some SM stuff. Because I'd watched him play. I'm like, you need to learn these things. Because Fred's a scary player at SMZ3. Like, if he had just from where he was before SG Live, if he just was a little bit better at SM, he'd be very, very competitive in that. And because he's got a random mind. Like he wrote the D1R randomizer, so he knows what he's doing there. But after that, I didn't have a moment free. I was constantly either commentating or watching or getting things set up, because I was co-running the SM tournament and I was running the SMZ3 tournament, just trying to get everything set up. There just wasn't time to hang out as much, except, little times for dinner and stuff, lunch, whatever.
Yeah.
But it was still so much fun. But, the people I met there, there were a lot of people that I were already good friends, and that didn't change. But there were people that I knew that became friends. And there were people that were kind of acquaintances that became really good friends. Like I would say, Tracie and Rick were friends, but now they're, even more so. And there were some people like Illis is the example I'll use, because it was funny because the one of the groups in the last tournament was Illis, Azure, Koi, and I think Dapper Worman was the fourth person. And Koi and Azure, of course, really good friends of mine. And I'm like, in fact, Koi at one point was like, "You gonna root for me?" I'm like, "Can you guys just split?" Which they did, so that worked out. But I didn't really know Illis. I mean, I knew who Illis was, but we didn't have any real interaction. Well, now I've met him in person, and I joked, I'm like, well, now if you guys are in that group again, I'm really screwed because there's 3 of you. It's
for sure.
Now I consider him a friend, and just the friendships you make just hanging out with people. And then on the Monday, I took the latest flight I could find on the Monday, and so we just sat and hung out. Andy and Kelsey, another good example. Like, everybody knows who Andy and Kelsey are, but now they're friends of mine. Like, before they were just good people that I knew and occasionally would lurk on their channels, and now they're friends because we met and we spent time together. So, I mean, you got to get to it. You got to get to SG Live.
I love it because
that's the cool part. That's what really stands out.
And that's kind of why I do the podcast, right? Like, it's trying to humanize people a little bit more. Like, yeah, we know each other, right, a little bit from playing the game together, and we have some interactions and we're friendly and all that kind of stuff. But when you start to hear people's stories or even get a chance to actually meet them and hang out with them, then they become real people, and it becomes different when you're watching them on stream.
Ari and his wife were really cool. Teaching this, his wife, I don't remember her name and I couldn't pronounce it anyway. Teaching a couple of people to do the pen spinning stuff. This was really cool. Like, just such great people. And then, the very end, like about 12 of us were all leaving at the same time. So all piled into the shuttle to the airport. And then, as people went their different ways, we, hug and say goodbye and stuff. And Sinak actually turned out to be on the same flight to Chicago as me. So he and I hung out until we had to board the plane.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. So you've kind of put yourself in a role. I don't know if they put you in this role or if you kind of took the initiative, but you kind of run a lot of the things when it comes to racing, especially in Super Metroid and SMZ3. Do you see yourself doing that for a while, and how has that gone for you?
Mostly it's been good. I enjoy running the stuff. It gives me an opportunity, coming back to commentary. One of the things I like best is I get to, see the comms and make sure, we have good commentary for the games that, towards the end of a tournament. Early on in the tournament, you kind of do whatever, right? Because you want to give new people a chance to commentate. You want to give, see how people are doing. But later on, having that extra little bit of control is nice. But yeah, it's fun to set things up. Now it's been a little bit, I'm not sure how to put this. There was a breakup in our community recently. I'm not going to say who, but people who know me know exactly who I'm talking about. That's kind of put a little bit of a rift in the SM community, and it sucks. Yeah. And trying to work around that has been a bit of a pain and kind of put a damper on things.
That's tough.
I'm not going to say any more than that because there's a lot of really nasty things I could get into with what happened there. But it made it less fun.
Sure.
To deal with.
Yeah.
And it's both SM and SMZ3, which makes it worse. So
because you can't escape it. Right?
Yeah, I mean it's just there.
Yeah.
It's like can we put just try and hopefully that they're not going to play each other type thing, and then what happens if they do play each other? It just kind of ruins it. And hopefully at some point that'll blow over or something. I don't know how.
Hopefully,
that's
time heals all wounds, right?
Yeah,
like that's the
hope.
Yeah,
you hope. But that's put a bit of a damper. I don't plan on ever doing it. Like Link to the Past is the thing that I don't have to run.
Mm-hmm.
You all that do it, you do a good job. You don't need me. I actually have to stop myself from doing so. I call myself. I am what I call an overhelper. It took me a long time to come to this realization. As you get older, you learn these things.
Yeah.
I see something and I want to fix it.
Yep.
And I just this is what I would do to fix this thing. And it started when I was we have 3 local conventions, anime, gaming, and science fiction. I've been involved in 2 of those conventions. I've run one of them a couple times as a part of the convention committee, and it showed up there. It showed up in some of the things that have happened on hockey teams. It shows up here. And over the years, a friend of mine who also is in that group for science fiction once said to me, he gave me this phrase. He said, "Not my circus, not my monkeys." And I have learned over the more recent years to say that. Like there are times when you give feedback for something that you have nothing to do with, and there are times when you don't. And I've really tried hard to separate those things. When is it appropriate when something I have nothing to do with to step in? And so like Link to the Past, not my circus, not my monkeys. There's a race to commentate. I will sign up and either I'm going to get it or I'm not. And I don't, at this point, I'm to the point where I know when they don't put me on a race, it's not because I've done a bad job. It's not because they don't like me. It's just because there were two other people that for whatever reason, it was a better fit, or, maybe they didn't get to do as many and I did more, or maybe those two asked to be together, whatever. So I try to keep it to that, playing ladder. I have to stop myself from wanting to, help out in additional ways.
Sure.
And there are definitely times there are definitely times where like, oh, I know the answer to this and I can help, but no, this is not the time to jump in. I have to stop myself. And it's that way in a lot of things. And, as you get older, you learn better to step away from those things and not force yourself into stuff. So
it's super hard because like I stepped away from the league and I see stuff and I'm like, oh, maybe I thought about coming back. I was talking to Sigma. I was like, I thought about coming back, and because it was running so well and everything, and I'm enjoying myself, I was like, I'm going to come back and maybe I'll admin again. And then like some drama blew up about, the Yoshi stuff. And I was like, nope, I'm exactly what you're talking about. I'm like, no, I'm good. I'm actually good. I know that
I pay attention to that stuff a lot.
Sure.
Yeah. I pay like me and Tracie. We'll share notes, because he's one of the big people running the Link to the Past League, and I'm doing SM. So we'll share notes, but that's all it is. It's like, this is what I did, or what did you do in this situation? What do little things like that. It's not a you should do this. It's hey, this is what we did. So we've exchanged notes over the years. But over, I guess, not that many years, but
it's been years
over
now,
the
though.
months, it feels like that, right?
Yeah.
Like being on the racing council, I want no part of that. We had having to deal with, because the cheating thing, we had to deal with that in SMZ3 last year. We had a big cheating scandal, which spread into Link to the Past, which for obvious reasons. Because most of our SMZ3 players play at least one of the other games, right? I don't want to deal with that. I don't want to deal if I were on a lot of the decisions the racing council has made, I don't like. I can't blame the racing council for quick swap. I'm not a fan of quick swap, but whatever. I don't like auto tracking. We specifically auto map tracking. I don't like because I don't even like the trackers tell you what's in logic. I feel like I'd be at an advantage if that wasn't a thing, because I feel like I know the logic pretty darn well, and we're all going to mess up at some point regardless. But having, you click that you have an item and suddenly all these green squares light up. Like, I don't think you should know that. That's part of the game. Part of the game is knowing what you can do with the items that you have. There shouldn't be something telling you that. And, they're not going to change that in the racing council at this point.
Right.
Like, for new players, it's fine. But once you're racing, you should be able to do that on your own type thing.
I think it's too ingrained into the...
Well, and the other problem with auto tracking is not everybody has a computer that can handle it. And if you want to play on console, you're paying twice as much for your flash cart as you are if you're not wanting to auto track, right? Because you have to get an SC2 SNES or FX Pro, whatever they call it now. Instead of just a regular flash cart. So you're spending more money. And I think that's kind of like, if you don't have a computer, I have no excuse for not using it other than I'm lazy to set it up. But I know people that have had computers that if they wanted to auto track, they just couldn't. And so it's not, people say, well, it's equally accessible. No, it's actually not equally accessible. So I definitely, so those are little things that if I were to get on the council, it'd be something I'd want to fix, right? And I don't want to do that. And, let it go.
It's also an uphill climb that you're trying to make, right?
Like, absolutely.
But you're like, you'd like it to change. There's things that you'd like to change, but trying to get those changed is just not worth. It's just not worth it.
It would just be added stress in my life,
Totally. Yeah. Before we get to the last question, I do want to ask you. I do want to talk a little about commentary, specifically with Link to the Past. Do you have any advice for people that are new to commentary? Because I feel like there's a lot of newer comms in the last year and a half. And then who are some of your favorite?
Watch the game a lot. Like before I watched, before I even started any kind of commentary for SM and later Link to the Past, I watched a lot. Watch people, not just, you can watching the races and listening to what people say in the races, learn who in chat knows what they're talking about and who is just, doesn't. I won't go further than that. Learn the logic as best you can, like try and pick up on those things. But when you get on the mic, don't try and be an expert on everything because you just can't.
Yeah.
One of the reasons why I mentioned know who the people that know what they're talking about are. I think that's important because then when you're going to make a mistake on commentary, don't be afraid to admit it. Like if someone, I will be more upset if I find out I made a mistake about someone and no one in chat corrected me than I will if they correct me. It feels bad to be wrong, right?
Yeah.
But I don't want to give wrong information out. So don't be afraid to ask the questions, and don't be afraid to, if you don't know the answer, it's okay.
Say that you don't know it. It's better than giving out wrong information for sure. Yeah. I
would say, the dailies are a great place to start. They're a little bit harder sometimes because you often have 4 people instead of 2. And commentating 4 people is hard. It's a lot harder to do 4 people than it is 2. And I'm kind of rusty with it because, both Link to the Past and SM, you should do a lot more where you'd have 2 races at the same time playing the same seed. And neither does that anymore. You guys stopped doing it first, but then we stopped doing it. When you feel ready to jump in. But I would watch a lot first. Also, find some people to watch play individually. I can't shout out Maniacal enough in terms of that. Like, he's one of the best, I think, when he plays a seed at talking through why he's doing what he's doing. I don't always agree with everything he does.
Sure.
But he's really good about talking through what he's doing. And, find some people like that can do that. They can do that. And you watch them play and you can learn more about what to do, what to talk about in commentary, And I like to do the thing where I say, okay, this is what, makes sense for this player. This is what makes sense for that player. And what sucks sometimes is, something that makes sense for one player, is the wrong answer. Like, okay, but this is what they're going to do, and it's not going to be the right answer. And sure enough, they do it,
Yep.
And then sometimes you jump the gun. Like this is something I know I need to work on, is that when you know the answer as a commentator, because you've seen it on the other person's side, it's very easy to say, okay, this is what the other player is going to do next. And then they don't do it. A really good Radical Sniper, Jesse, and Willard were playing a cross keys match a few weeks ago. And I was calling it, and it just seemed like, okay, this is on both sides. I think Willard had to go to take his mirror to desert area or something to find an entrance pod, I think. And Jesse had to go take his flippers directly to Swamp to find the vanilla Swamp small key. And each one had essentially done the thing that the other needed to do right away when they got the item.
Yeah.
So it was like, you felt like, oh God, surely this is what the other's going to do. And when they get their items, and no, they both came, I think, Willard was a little bit slower to finally get to what he needed to do, and he ended up losing than Jesse was to get to what he needed to do. But they did all these other things beforehand. And it's just like, as a commentator, you go, okay, now they're going to do, nope.
Right. Remember that you have perfect information.
We have all that information. They don't have that information. You have to remind yourself of that. It's sometimes, I know I need to do a better job about that. That particular race really highlighted that for me. Like, okay, you need to be a little more careful. It's not always, they're not always going to do the thing that you think is obvious, that maybe you wouldn't think was obvious if you didn't know the answer.
Yeah, for sure. Who are some of your favorite commentators?
Oh gosh, I'm going to leave people off the list if I go through this. Oh, sure.
I remember I made Clear Mouse do this like in season 1, and she left people off the list. But.
Gosh, yeah. Well, I mean, you, Drosy, Willard, JP, Phileon doesn't do a lot of commentary, but I love listening to him when he does.
I miss Phileon's commentaries. Yeah.
Yeah. Clear Mouse is another one. She's really fun. Clear Mouse is funny. I got to tell you this at SG Live. I was calling Ace doing an SM race in the room that Rick dubbed the 3-ring circus, because it's like 3 SG channels all recording in one room, right?
Right.
And at some point, she just goes, "Oh my God," as she does. And we all heard it. And Ace told me later, because you got the noise canceling headphones on, right? And he's like, "Yeah, I didn't hear anything but that. That's the one thing I heard was Clear Out saying, 'Oh my God.'"
That's hilarious.
So yeah, Ace is another person I work with sometimes. He's good. Maniacal. Apathy Duck, who hasn't done Link to the Past in forever. He and I have called some epic SMZ3 races together.
Yeah, I like Apathy Duck too.
Yeah, he was so funny though at SG Live. He's like, for the final, he comes to me and Ace and he says, "You two, and you're the ones that deserve to do the finals, but here's what I want. Here's what I propose." And he wanted to do the final with Emo. And, because, they're a couple and they're friends, and she knows Link to the Past, but not really SM. And he goes on and on. I'm like, okay, that sounds good. And he keeps going on like, Duck. Yeah, let's do it. I agree. He's someone you should have on. Both of them, really. He is this ball of energy.
Yes, he does.
Come out. Yes, really cool guy. Really good to meet. Another one of those people that, was a friend, but now is a good friend, from SG Live. So
that's awesome. All right. So we went way over time because it's so easy to talk with you. I feel like you and I can just keep going for another hour. So no problem. But we're going to wrap this up here with the tilt question. How do you handle tilt? What's your approach to handling tilt? What's your advice for handling tilt? Let me know what you think.
I'm terrible. So first of all, in terms of playing games, the most tilted I've gotten recently were these 2 cross keys races on ladder that I did in the last few months, where I stooped on something, and I look at the race time room and I see, or not the race time because it's ladder, the Discord, and I see I'm the only one left racing. So I'm like, surely everybody else is finished. Surely my opponent finished and won. And I forfeited. And in both cases, my opponent had forfeited too.
Oh no.
And what I should have done is just finish the seed. Because I'm like, well, I don't deserve to win anyway, so I'll just forfeit. I'll finish the seed. In both cases, I forfeited after I found the item I stooped. And that just made me so upset that my opponent had forfeited the race and not won it, right? So I don't do that anymore. Dunka, if you listen to these, you need a command that you can type in to find out if your opponent is finished or not, because I don't like I don't want the ping. I don't want it pinging me when my opponent finishes. But if I stoop on something and I'm 3.5 hours into a cross keys match, I sure want to be able to type and see if they've finished or not, right? And you can't do that. And if you do have the ping on and you're the only one left and you haven't been pinged, then your opponent has forfeited. Like, that you just need to finish, and that's kind of unfair. Yeah. I think for playing the game, I can get I don't really have advice. I don't think I'm good with it. It's like
good. That's great. I love this, Tracie. This is the first time no one's like, everyone has advice and opinions on what to do, and
I don't know. The one piece of advice I will give is, if you're on Restream and you're that tilted, don't do the interview.
Yeah.
Just don't. I know there was one race that we had in the last league where I got on there and I said some things. And in the end, I apologized, and B, they didn't take it badly in the first place anyway, from what I could tell. But I definitely was not happy with the way I handled myself in the interview, especially as an organizer.
Sure.
But so that's the one piece of advice I will give. If you're that tilted, don't go just don't do the interview. But the thing is, the most tilted I get And this caused trouble for a long time. It was like the one thing we fought about with my husband, Jeff. I would get super upset when my sports teams did stuff were bad,
Yep.
late goals in a Sharks game, the Giants. Oh my God. So in 2002, the Giants were in the World Series, game 6, they're up 6-0, lose the game. The next day, they were up 1-0, I think. And then I forget what happened. Things went wrong. And I kicked an ottoman in my apartment. And I thought maybe I broke my foot.
Oh.
I was in a ton of pain. Yeah. And I didn't go to the doctor. I'm like, there's no way I'm going to the doctor saying I kicked a piece of furniture. Not going to do that. Whatever it was, it went away after a few days and I was fine. But after that, you'd think that would teach me to not do such things anymore. No, what that taught me was make sure you have things near you that you can throw that won't do damage.
Yeah.
Because there were times when I just get all upset, and I've gotten I kind of got better more because just the more of a disconnect I have with the sports that has come just in the last few years due to more doing other things like the Twitch stuff and COVID just kind of making it just feel less important. So it's not nearly as bad, but I would just scream and rant and rave, and it just god awful, and that's when I would get the most tilted, and it's not healthy. It really isn't.
It's not. I was super depressed after the Seahawks blew the Super Bowl. Like it affected.
It hurts.
Hard.
And there's nothing you can do about it. There's
yeah.
nothing you can do beforehand. There's nothing you can do after. There's just you're just like when you play a game, you can learn from whatever you did. You can't do that when you're the spectator for a sporting team.
Totally. Oh boy. And we got Seahawks versus Niners tonight.
Yes, we do.
I'm not
I might play the retros race. I'm not sure. I don't know. We're down to an injured third string quarterback. So.
He looked pretty good, though. All right, let's get out of here. People don't listen to that sports. Thank you so much for doing the show. I'm so glad you did it. I can't thank you enough for being on.
Oh, I'm so glad you asked me. It's just so much fun.
Thanks again to TracieM for coming on the show. Really appreciated having her on, and again, getting a chance to hear her story. And love when I have someone on the show that I could talk sports with as well. It'd be really interesting if she was an actual commentator for sports, because she does such a good job with commentary. But, that's the way the cookie crumbles, I guess. All right, we'll be back on Thursday with another episode, and then another episode on Monday. So a little bonus during this Christmas time. So check those out. We've got the 216 Weekly this Saturday. That's going to be noon Eastern. I don't know the mode that we're playing yet, so check the Discord out for that. 216pod.com has the links to the Discord, so you can check that out. We play the 216 Weekly every Saturday at noon Eastern, even this week. There just won't be a restream. Make sure you subscribe to the show, and I think that's about it. I guess I can throw Gambachu under the bus one more time. Really wish he would have beat Homemade Peter. That son of a bitch. But we're going to be playing Game 5, hopefully. Hopefully there's a positive resolution to all of this. Yeah, until then, see you Thursday.